Have you ever had the feeling that something is wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on it? As if, despite your best efforts, things are not falling into place with an important person in your life. What if I told you that these moments, these obstacles, these frustrations are actually signs from Allah? Signs that are leading you away from a relationship that is not meant for you, but that you do not yet see clearly. Today, I'm going to reveal to you the unexpected things that happen when Allah does not want you to be with anyone. These signs, although discreet, are powerful. Stay well, because understanding these signs can completely transform your perception of your relationships and how Allah guides you in your life. 1. Signs of inexplicable frustration. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where, despite your efforts, nothing seems to be going well. You tried with all your might, but every attempt failed. You wonder why, despite your good intentions, things don't go as planned. It's as if, with every step you take, a sort of invisible wall stands in front of you, forcing you to go further. This kind of frustration doesn't always come from you or the person in question. There are times when Allah, in His great wisdom, guides you away from what is not meant for you. It is essential to understand that in our life, Allah is always with us, even in our times of difficulty. This inexplicable frustration you feel may be a sign from God, a sign that this relationship, despite your best attempts, is not what you should pursue. Things just don't line up, like the doors are always closing. Maybe you don't see it immediately, but in every difficulty, Allah protects you from what could harm your heart and soul. Remember that frustration is sometimes Allah's way of keeping you away from what could harm your inner peace. Relationships that are not meant to be can lead you into turmoil, conflict, and situations that take you away from your spiritual purpose. It is not a simple coincidence that you experience these blockages. Rather, these obstacles are signs that you are receiving some form of divine guidance, a subtle but powerful reminder that this path is not yours. Trials, however difficult they may be, are a form of purification. Every difficulty you go through, every frustration you feel, brings you closer to your true destiny. Allah always guides you, even when you do not fully understand His intentions. In reality, these frustrations are invitations to trust in Allah, to let go of what does not serve you, and to focus on what is truly meant for your well-being. It's in these stuck moments that you are pushed to look elsewhere, to seek direction that brings you closer to what you are meant to accomplish. And when you are at peace with this reality, you will understand that Allah, in His mercy, has removed from your life what could have prevented you from growing spiritually. Frustration, then, becomes a source of gratitude because it allows you to free yourself from the bonds that were holding you back, even if it didn't seem like what you wanted at first. Let yourself be guided by this invisible force, which leads you towards a more serene life, more aligned with divine plans. 2. The feeling of increasing distance. There comes a time in a relationship when you instantly feel a gap, an invisible distance that seems to gradually settle in. It is not an abrupt move away, but rather a subtle, almost imperceptible process that occurs over time. Exchanges that were once full of warmth and harmony begin to become increasingly cold and superficial. The bond you once shared seems to be fading, like a mist that slowly invades the landscape, making things less clear. You begin to wonder why you feel more and more distant, as if something or someone is escaping you. It's important to remember that this distance isn't always the result of something you did wrong or just a coincidence. Sometimes it is a clear sign that Allah's divine plan is coming to fruition. In His infinite wisdom, Allah says what is good for us, even when we do not understand it. It is not uncommon that, in times when we cling to a relationship that is not aligned with our spiritual well-being, Allah creates this distance to gradually move us away from it. It is an act of mercy, a way of distancing ourselves from a relationship that, although it may seem ideal in the moment, could in the long term harm our heart and our soul. This feeling of separation, although difficult to accept, is actually a form of divine protection. Allah spares you what could disturb your inner peace. It is said in the Holy Hadith that Allah does not test the soul beyond its capacity. So, when you feel this growing distance, it may be an indication that you are being protected from something that would not serve you in your spiritual path. Distance is not a sign of abandonment, but rather a gesture of healing, an opportunity for your heart to refocus, to detach itself from what could be pulling you down. In reality, the separation often begins to manifest in your thoughts and emotions before it is evident on the outside. You realize that your priorities, your goals, and even your values no longer align with this person. This is where the distance becomes not only physical, but also mental and emotional. Conversation becomes more difficult, empathy less present, and bonds of understanding begin to dissipate. It is not essentially because you no longer get along, but because you are changing, evolving under the influence of Allah, who is guiding you towards what is truly destined for you. And although at first it may seem like a big void, remember that this void is actually filled by the presence of Allah. Distance, although it can hurt, is often a prelude to something greater, more suited to your spiritual path. Isolation is sometimes the fertile ground in which inner peace can truly grow. The emptiness you feel today is, in truth, a space where Allah is preparing something better for you tomorrow. 3. Disturbances in inner peace. There are times when, despite your best efforts to remain balanced, you feel a sudden disruption to your inner peace. This uneasiness, this agitation in your heart, does not seem to have an obvious cause. You wake up in the morning with a feeling of emptiness, a spiritual heaviness that doesn't leave you. This feeling of inner imbalance is actually a sign of Allah's divine guidance, a subtle warning that He is leading you away from something or someone who is disturbing your peace of mind. When Allah desires to distance us from certain people or situations, He does so not only through external events, but often through inner turmoil. It's as if something inside you no longer works the same way. You feel emotional emptiness, a feeling of constant irritation, or even a lack of understanding of what is troubling you. Your prayers, which were once times of peace and connection, seem less profound. Du'as, which were once full of sincerity and concentration, begin to seem more mechanical to you. What was a source of tranquility suddenly becomes a difficult task. This kind of inner turmoil can be unsettling, especially if you don't immediately understand the reason behind the discomfort. You ask yourself, why do I feel like something is wrong even when everything seems okay? But know that this disturbance is actually a divine message. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, allows this imbalance to manifest in order to show you that this connection, this relationship, or this situation is no longer in harmony with your spiritual well-being. This can be an invitation to adjust your outlook, reevaluate your priorities, and return to a more authentic connection with Allah. When you feel disturbed inside, it is often a sign that you are lost, even in a subtle way, in something or someone that is not allowing you to maintain your spiritual balance. These disturbances are calls from your soul to return to your essence, to what brings you true peace, far from worldly distractions. This does not mean that you have done anything wrong, but rather that the time has come for you to reorient yourself towards what is truly good for your soul. It is essential in these times of trouble to seek refuge with Allah. It is in these moments of destabilization that you must strengthen your connection with Him. Prayer, reflection, and the search for divine guidance become powerful tools to find your inner peace. Do not run away from this discomfort, but welcome it as a divine invitation to adjust your path. These disturbances are actually signs of love from Allah, which guide you towards a deeper peace, away from what could alter your peace of mind, the sudden disappearance of chances and opportunities. Another clear sign that Allah wants to keep you away from someone is the sudden disappearance of opportunities and chances. It feels like every time you try to move forward with this person or in this relationship, doors close without a logical explanation. You can try to plan, to act, to do everything in your power to get things done, but every step you take seems hampered by an unexpected obstacle. This phenomenon can be frustrating, even confusing, but in reality, it is not a coincidence. This is a clear sign that this relationship is not part of Allah's divine plan for you. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sometimes closes doors to protect us, to guide us towards a path that is better for our spiritual well-being. Repeated failures, opportunities that disappear in an instant, are not signs of punishment, but signs of divine love, a way of distancing ourselves from what could harm our inner peace and spiritual growth. We tend to see these styles as personal failures or bad luck, but they are often gifts in disguise from Allah. These blocks, although they may seem discouraging, are direct ways of distancing ourselves from what will not serve us in the long term. Imagine that you are on a path, but the journey leads you to impassable pitfalls, rocks, and mountains. Instead of forcing yourself to move forward against all logic, it may be better to take a moment to understand why this road is closing. Allah, by His mercy, sometimes closes the door that we think are open to prevent us from going astray, to give us the opportunity to seek a more righteous path. These failures are not the end of the world. On the contrary, they are a way for Allah to protect you from a destiny that does not correspond to what is best for you. It can be difficult to accept this closure, especially when you are emotionally invested in the relationship or in joint projects. But remember that Allah, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly what you need. When opportunities suddenly disappear, it is sometimes a way to spare yourself from future suffering, to prepare you for blessings that can only come as you free yourself from what is not meant for you. The sudden decline of these chances is a form of hidden mercy, a way of redirecting you toward opportunities that will propel you toward growth, more aligned with your spiritual destiny. Don't let these closures get you down. Rather, recognize them as signs of Allah's divine protection, lovingly guiding you on the path to peace and spiritual tranquility. What is yours will come to you, and often it is when you let go that the true blessings manifest. 5. Advice from others that doesn't make sense at first. Sometimes Allah does not speak to you directly, but He puts messengers on your path in the form of kind people, close friends, family members, or even strangers. They may give you advice that at first seems unimportant or disconnected from your reality. You hear phrases like, "Are you sure this person is right for you?" "I have a bad feeling about this relationship," or "There is something wrong, think carefully." These words may seem harmless, sometimes even annoying, but they do not come out of nowhere. One of the subtle signs that Allah doesn't want you to be with someone is the echo of these warnings that you hear over and over again. In the moment, you may be tempted to dismiss this advice, thinking that no one understands your situation better than you. And therein lies the test. Will you listen with humility, or will you ignore these signals that your Creator is sending you? Divine wisdom often manifests itself through others, even when it seems illogical or premature. Allah sees what you cannot see. He knows the hidden intentions, the true hearts, and the destinies that are written in the invisible. Sometimes you are too emotionally attached to a relationship to discern what is truly good or bad for you. But Allah, in His mercy, uses those around you to alert you. What seems to you to be a simple remark from a loved one could be a light sent to enlighten you before it is too late. Another striking sign is when these warnings come from different people at different times and without them being concerted. It's a powerful reminder that something is wrong. Nothing happens by chance. If several people feel the same way and advise you to take a step back, take the time to reflect with an open heart. Ask yourself, what if this is a message from Allah that I ignore out of pride or attachment? The most troubling thing is that this advice often doesn't make sense until much later. It's once the relationship is over and you step back that you realize how justified those warnings were. That's when you see things clearly and say to yourself, if only I had listened. But remember, Allah never sets you up for no reason. Every advice, every warning is a mercy in disguise, a test to see if you are ready to follow the path He has laid out for you. When you hear advice that doesn't immediately make sense, don't brush it off. Meditate on it. Do tawbah, deep thinking. Turn to Allah and ask Him to show you the truth, for He sometimes speaks through others, but it is your heart that must be ready to hear. 6. Changes in your own behavior. Sometimes Allah not only takes you away from a person, but He also brings you closer to yourself. Without even realizing it, your behavior begins to subtly change. Where once you were consumed by this relationship, you now feel an inner calling towards something deeper, more essential. It is a powerful phenomenon that many are unaware of at first, the inner transformation imposed by separation. You behave differently by observing yourself. Perhaps you feel a sudden need to pray with more focus, a deep desire to purify your heart and intentions. You become aware of things that once did not matter to you, the weight of your actions, the sincerity of your invocations, the importance of silence and reflection. This is no coincidence. It is a divine reorientation. Allah takes you away from what was distracting you from your true mission and refocuses you on your connection with Him. Another strong sign is this inexplicable feeling of relief. Of course, at the beginning there may be pain, doubt, and regret, but over time, a tranquility sets in as if an invisible heaviness has been lifted from your heart. This is a sure sign that Allah is guiding you. Why this sudden peace? Because your soul is beginning to come back into alignment with the truth. You also notice changes in your priorities. What was once an obsession, this person, this relationship, this expectation, begins to fall away. You find satisfaction in the simplest, purest things. You feel drawn to improving yourself, whether spiritually, mentally, or even physically. You step back, you analyze your past with more wisdom, and you realize that certain decisions were made under the influence of emotion and not reason. And who gives you this new lucidity? It is Allah, who replaces a useless attachment with a quest for meaning. Another significant change is the way you perceive this separation. What once seemed like a punishment began to feel like a blessing in disguise. You understand that if you had persisted in this relationship, you might have remained stagnant or even lost. Allah has not deprived you of happiness. He has spared you a trap. He took something temporary away from you to prepare you for something eternally beneficial. This is where a great lesson becomes apparent. You cannot move forward as long as you hold on to what needs to go. Allah transforms you sometimes without you asking, sometimes even against your will. But once you accept this guidance, you realize that this detachment was the greatest gift He could give you. 7. Reflections on the past and the clarity of the future. At first, it is difficult to see the wisdom behind the separation. You feel an emptiness, a lack of understanding, an inner struggle between acceptance and attachment. But over time, a powerful phenomenon occurs: clarity, like a veil that's slowly lifted. You begin to understand why Allah took you away from this person. You think back to past moments, to signs that you didn't see at the time, the little frustrations, the subtle conflict, that unexplained feeling of discomfort. Everything now makes sense. What seemed to you to be a simple estrangement was, in reality, a divine alignment. You realize that if you had stayed in this relationship, you might have compromised on your faith, lost some of your inner peace, or even drifted down a path that was not yours. Then another feeling emerges: gratitude. You begin to thank Allah for this separation, even if once it seemed like an insurmountable pain. You understand that He didn't take something away from you for no reason. He protected you. He gave you an opportunity to grow, to refocus, and to get closer to Him. The separation was not a rejection, it was a redirection. And now, looking forward, something has changed within you. You no longer see this relationship as a loss, but as a necessary step in your journey. Your vision of what is truly important becomes clearer. You have learned to trust in divine wisdom. You have understood that when something leaves your life, it is because Allah is preparing something better for you. Perhaps a more sincere friendship, a purer love, a connection more aligned with your spiritual mission. You no longer look behind you with regret, but with gratitude. Because if this separation had not happened, you would not be the person you are today. You learned, you evolved, you became stronger, and above all, you have understood a profound truth. Allah never deprives you of a good without directing you toward a better one. Now that you are aware of these divine signs, it is time to step back and reflect on your own life. Trials, blockages, distancing, these are all invitations to refocus on what is truly good for you, to grow in your faith, and to accept that sometimes the best of Allah for you is what you do not yet see. Never forget it. If this video has brought you clarity, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming spiritual advice. Share this video with those who need it and leave a comment below to tell us what experiences you have had with these signs.